some wisdom or silliness from them. So, okay, so I'm going to turn the first part over to Marcia.
Hi, everybody. Images, Kootenai Women's Newspaper, was the voice of women, as you can see on the back table. Only a small portion, actually, of the images that were produced over that almost 20-year period. We dealt with issues, specific issues, every volume. We spoke from our hearts, we spoke from our heads. It was a feminist paper that did feminist analysis from rural women's perspective. And that was carried on throughout the whole time. An excellent piece of work. And I can say that heartfully because for the past couple of weeks I've been absolutely buried in all of the old images to create our timeline. They're fabulous, you know, really. And I think one of the projects I would really like to see happen is to get all of the issues all in one place and scan them so that they're available in a much wider, because the stuff that we wrote before is so current today, it's amazing. And I think that people would really benefit from being able to have access to it. So, I would like everyone in the room who has ever written for images or worked on production of the newspaper to please come up to the front.
You need to get off that. That's right. Oh, we're going to sit down. I always enjoy
You don't have to sit. Where did my, right, oh, there she is. Okay. Okay. We just want to honor you each with a certificate in thanks for all that you have done, and also we want to give you a rose. And so the certificates, because we didn't know who was going to show up, actually are being written at this moment. So let's start. We'll just start here and we'll go down the road. Caitlin McKeevy.
Yep.
And
I wrote just in the dying years.
I wrote in the dying years.
I wrote in the dying year. There we go.
Thank you. And there is a certificate over there.
It was short. Maybe I should just take a section.
You're getting written out right now. Caitlin McKeevy has your certificate. And it's a really nice paper.
Is it recycled?
H-U-R-S-T. Ellie. And what color rose would you like?
Stand down. Red. Good.
Except I am going to give this to Grannies, who also worked on images and didn't mention herself. You kept saying you. There.
You get the red one. Joanna Green.
I'll have the other color.
Wow.
The mixed.
This one.
Yeah, the orange and orange.
Yeah.
If you can get it out.
And Joanna, here's your certificate.
Thank you very much. What does it say?
Sandra Hartline.
Bonnie Baker. Bonnie Baker. Bonnie Baker.
Oh, Bonnie's here. Bonnie,
Now, how did you miss me?
Bonnie Baker. Thank you. Bonnie Baker. And you get to pick your rose too. Bonnie gets to pick a rose. Sandra Hartline.
Rita Moyer.
Rita Moyer.
I'll feed her next.
Okay.
These are good. They don't have to
After that,
JCK, small K, and ZIC. Rita Moyer. And the fascinating thing about images is the number of women who worked on images over the years, who went on to become professional writers and published other published writers in the world. And so it's not only a fabulous feminist publication, but it was a training ground for writers.
I remember marveling at Rita being able to whip out these press releases.
In those days, we typeset it on a typewriter.
Oh, yeah.
And then shrunk it on a photocopier and pasted it up.
Sally McKenzie.
No, we did leprosy headlines.
Yes, I remember. That's what we did.
And then we got the machines that took up half the basement.
And we complained about computers.
I think it was faster than the computer used to get right now.
No, it was, and where's your home? Yeah, well, that's what we want. Okay. No, we didn't.
This is a reader. That's the reader.
No, that could just get. John McDonald, who also went on to become a great writer.
And her baby daughter worked on the paper.
And I found the issue, by the way.
Did you find it?
Yes, I did, and we'll show it to you. We had an issue where we had wonderful stories from Don McDonald, who went to Mozambique with her partner, Greg Utsey, when Greg was 3 years old, and spent 2.5 years there. And she would send articles back to Images from Mozambique about the lives of women in Mozambique, and they were, we never would have had such a wonderful opportunity to read about the lives of women around the world than the experiences that Images has given us. So,
We have one woman here. What is your name?
My name's Inger, and I was a reader.
So let's get Inger's first reader.
so
Marcia, do you get a big?
I get a rose too. I'll pick a rose. I'll pick this rose.
What about white virginity?
Hey, honey. I saw those issues on sex, and I know who wrote them too. So
How do you know that? We didn't sign anything.
Yeah, I know. what a trip going back and reading it, because Images, almost all of the articles in Images were written unsigned or as a member of the collective. So some were collective articles where we would sit up till very late at night writing each word together. And other times we just committed ourselves to whatever someone had written. And rather than putting that person in a compromised position in relation to the public world, we just all signed it. So I really, really want to say thank you and have everyone say thank you.
Just like it.
And so now, I would like all the women who are part of this group and the ones who are in the audience who were part of the Images AdHoc singers to please come up. I can put this in my, put it over here.
Song.
Yes, sir. We have one song.
We're gonna lip sync.
We're gonna do carry forward that song. Okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Here it comes.
Walking forward.
Keep on walking forward. Keep on walking forward.
Thank you. And
I've got what's that for? I've got one already.
okay, you have one then. Joy Green.
I got one already.
Okay, you can have two. Mo Lyons, who's here, was really sorry. Wendy Hurst, she has one. Janice Sawyer. Janice isn't here. No. Okay. Paula.
Yeah, you don't know me.
No, I don't.
Paula's the newest member.
Her name is
Paula.
Paula Nielsen. S-P-I-L-S-O-N. Okay. We need another. Come on. Paula Nielsen. Thank you.
Okay, the next person or the next organization I'm going to honor, and we're going to honor, is the, nope, I've got the wrong, oh yes, the Voice of Women Canada. In 1962, there were two women, Agnes Hipperson and Anne, help me say her last name, Kujunjik?
Kuyunzik.
Thank you.
Kuyunzik.
Being dyslexic makes that one difficult. And I spoke with both of them, and Agnes really wanted to be here tonight, but she had her 68th wedding anniversary yesterday, and felt that that was a little bit too much for 2 days in a row. But she did. She quoted me some things she would like to say that I'm going to read on her behalf. And I also spoke with Anne, and Anne added some information in. How many of you know those two women? Okay.
There are other members of VAL also around in the community.
That's right. What we were doing this time, and I know Hannah Haddocken is like been a member, she's in Egypt. What we were doing this time is honoring the group as a whole, but also honoring the founding members as elders. Were you also a founding member? Ah, then Betty Daniel. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, well, then maybe after I've read this, you would also like to say something. No? Okay.
The founding members for this branch here for the communities. You didn't come until that's right. That's right.
Okay, so this is from Agnes. I first want to congratulate the women of Nelson who have worked to keep the center alive and working to meet the varied needs of women in your community. The founding of a local chapter, this again is speaking of the Voice of Women Canada, the founding of a local chapter started in the summer of 1960 when the then CCF Member of Parliament sent us information on the new organization in Toronto, the Voice of Women Canada, which had sprung up in response to the threat of nuclear war in the USA and Russia. This standoff was caused by the Cuban Revolution against the US-supported capitalist dictator in Cuba. Russia supported the Cubans with threats of installing missiles on Cuban soil aimed at the US. As both superpowers were armed to the teeth with nuclear weapons, the fear of nuclear war was very real. The founders of the Voice of Women hoped and believed that a massive popular expression of opposition to war, particularly nuclear war, might deter governments from such a suicidal course. In Nelson, my good friend Anne Kuyunjik, thank you, and I were sitting under a cherry tree in our backyard, and we read the material together. We decided, after reading the material, that we had to do something and to call a meeting of like-minded friends. Altogether, we decided that we would do what was required to become a local unit of the Voice of Women. We then planned our outreach, which involved contacting women's groups, churches, and PTAs. We set up a speakers bureau, offering to send a speaker to any of the above groups to explain the purpose of the Voice of Women and secure memberships. We had instant success as the women responded readily to this appeal. My active role in the Nelson Voice of Women ended when I moved to Argenta, where, of course, a community of Quakers needed no persuasion on the evils of war. Their testimony against war had been consistent for about 300 years. The voice of women in Nelson continued for a time with Betty Drew and Vera Holliday, both charter members, now deceased. They managed a clothing exchange raising money for this organization. A particular and special contribution for the cause was made by Betty Drew. On her retirement, she lived for a few months in Toronto in the home of Kay McPherson, national president of the Voice of Women, where she organized and planned in detail an international conference of women, which brought women from Soviet Russia to Canada to join in witnessing against nuclear war. I would like to bring this up to date by noting that the date of nuclear proliferation and nuclear explosion by accident or design is again in front and center of public concern. An international campaign to achieve a convention agreement with a treaty against the possession, development, and use of nuclear weapons is now underway. I want to thank you for including me in your celebration of elder women. My advice to you is be informed and raise your voices. So that's Agnes.
Thank you.
Now Anne said to make sure that we added that back then in the 60s, they actually were given a spot on the local radio, which was totally unheard of at the time. And she said it was just quite incredible that they were actually able to weekly address this issue. Anne moved in 1964 to Kelowna, and she added, it's important not only to be informed, but strategically raise your voice. Vote strategic. Even if you don't get your first choice, make sure that you vote strategically. And then she said, hey, things change and evolve. So I want to say thank you to these two wonderful women and all of the women who have ever done any work on behalf of peace and for the voice of women. And they can't have their roses, but we'll hopefully be able to send them the certificate. So for those two people, thank you. Now this is for the Voice of Women BC, which was an independent society on the West Coast, who has just recently passed on to us $20,000 to keep the Women's Center going. Wow. Now this again, as I was mentioning earlier, Betty Little and Maria Abbott had talked to Betty Daniel. And Betty Daniel called me, and it was through that entire process of speaking with them and sending in a written proposal that, and then they called, and something funny, they called and listened in to the answering machine at the Women's Center, of which I was thinking, oh my God, that's so long, they're never going to give us the money. And she said, no, it covered everything, and I can understand you. So they gave us that money based on that. And I spoke with Barbara Little, who is unable to come tonight. Barbara Little was unable to come tonight. She also wanted to come from the coast, but her husband is failing in health, and so she just wanted for us to pass on from them congratulations to the Women's Center. And this is a few of her thoughts. After protests that nuclear testing was bad for our health and being ignored by the powers that be, a major action was initiated to try and change public opinion. One of the actions Barbara Little spoke of was when Ursula Frank initiated a scientific testing of babies' teeth to see if strontium-90 was actually present in the teeth. Women around the country sent in their babies' teeth to be tested, and indeed it was found that there was strontium-90 in the teeth. Delegation of women went to Ottawa, dressed in their hats and white gloves, to present this information, hoping that the government officials would come to their senses once this was revealed. One of the legacies of these women is participatory action, insistence on speaking their truth, and a legacy of hope as well. The Voice of Women BC was formed as a separate society when a bequest by Frida Hanford, a school teacher, was written to the BC Voice of Women rather than the Voice of Women Canada. And so they formed a society around that, okay? We have Frida to thank for helping to create the Voice of Women BC and also to secure the workings of the West Kootenay Women's Association. On behalf of the work of Barbara Little, Maria Abbott, and all of the members of Voice of Women BC, I offer up honor and gratitude. As the rest of the names of the women that we are honoring, or the organizations we're honoring, will be hung in a plaque at the Women's Center, the Voice of Women Canada, and the Voice of Women BC will also be on this plaque. So let's give them a big hand. Okay, we have 2 more groups. And I'm going to leave the Raging Grannies for last, just in case they, one or all, want to sing. But we want to also honor the company of older women. I managed to take a picture the other day of the company of older women, and I made copies for everybody, not for everybody here, but for the company of older women, that you can pick this up afterwards also. Not everyone was at the meeting, so not everyone is included in the picture, but for those who are here tonight, please take one. Now, I believe with the company of older women, my voice is getting tired, Betty Daniel is going to come up and tell us a little bit about how it started, and then the other women will also give voice to this very important group. Okay, let's welcome Betty Daniel.
I don't know if I need it. I'm an old
You have to
teacher.
speak into the mic because we're being taped.
Oh. Sorry. First of all, I want you to see my notes. And if you remember, all the panel members who sat here had these little discrete little pieces of paper. Well, that shows you how old I am. So, I was asked to talk about how the coup group got started. Well, it's a very strange story. Actually, some of us had been members of the organization, WICWA, and we used to go to the Women's Center, and we felt rather out of place at the Women's Center, and we also didn't know what were older people supposed to do for WICWA. So I complained, and so Mo and Sam Simpson said to me, "Get on the collective, and then you can see what you can do." So I got on the collective, but nothing really happened. So I said, nothing is happening. In the interim, I would go to lunch with 4 or 5 people, and this was done rather regularly. And we would each time say, look, we're members, but we're not doing anything, and where do we belong, and what should we do, and so forth. Maybe we need a group. So I took that back to the collective, and they said, go to it. Go find yourself a group and see what you can come up with. So we had our first meeting, and this was the first meeting of the coup group, which didn't have a name at that point, and that was May the 19th, 1995. And I'd like to read you a little bit of the minutes from that meeting. I don't even know who took these, but they called it the Company of Women. And it said, this is the first meeting, quote, gathering, date, Friday, May the 19th, 1995, time, 11 to 12:15, place, the Women's Center. And the company members present were Kathleen Shannon, Claire Dakin, Doris Kaplan, Esther, and I don't need to give you the full name, Marilyn, and Jenny Craig and myself. That was the starting group. So we sat around and we talked. What do you see should happen for this group? Why are we here? What do we want to do? Have fun? Be a social group? Philosophical, political concerns, and current issues. And we should make the center a welcome place for older women, which it isn't now. Suggestions for things to do that came from these women who were gathered. One, Raging Grannies, and I remember Doris was the one that suggested that. And we should sit around and talk to one another about what are the issues for older women. We should most particularly be a model for younger women. And we should attend the wonderful Wednesday evenings. And these, I gather, the Wednesday evening gatherings at the center. And we should bring in speakers. Now, we should also meet over the summer, and we should probably meet during the early part of the day in preference to the evening. We did not want to increase the numbers in the group at this stage, so we wanted this a selective group of 6 or 7 women. Then we made a decision as to where we would gather next time, and that would be Lakeside Park, where we would, and bring your own lunch, and remember to go to see the film at Wonderful Wednesday called Company of Strangers.
Oh, yeah.
Each of us is to donate $1 to the Women's Center, and the next meeting will be probably 1 month from today. And that was the first informal meeting that we had. Subsequent to that, we became very organized. First, we needed a name. Well, we had just seen the film, Company of Strangers, so we thought, why don't we call ourselves the Company of Older Women? And first it was Company of Women, which was cow, and we didn't really. So we thought we'll add another 0 and make it Company of Older Women. Purpose, stimulation, discussion of political issues affecting older women, outdoor activities necessary for older women, cultural activities necessary for older women, and mostly fun. And that word fun has permeated everything that we have done. Now the activities, and I'd like to go through a list of 2 years' activities, and that's what it fills. There were films, Marilyn Waring, Kathleen Shannon's life, Flamenco at 5:15, among the different kinds of films. Speakers, we had Abra on food security. We had Judy Gayton on senior housing. We had Sean Lamb on the history of women in Nelson. We had Wendy Hurst on CBT, Columbia Basin Trust. And we had Doris on her trip to Siberia, and Hannah Haddocken on her trip to Beijing. Now these were not all the things, but that's some I selected out. And then discussions. We were always talking about books and magazine articles that we had read. And we mostly talked about political issues. Yes. We also wrote letters supporting various groups of women who were on strike here, there, and everywhere, like laundry workers in hospitals and so forth. And we were always participating in marches here, there, and everywhere. Now, we had a few educational and cultural things. We had visits to various art galleries. We had drawing classes with Marilyn in the park. And I remember Marilyn saying to me, "Betty, sorry dear, but you're hopeless." And we had co-op radio programs. We also had what I felt was the most exciting meeting that we had in all years that I belonged. And that was a meeting in which we invited the younger women members of WICWA to come and meet with the older members. And that was the most wonderful meeting. It really was, both for the older women and the younger women. So. And of course, we needed a number of outdoor activities. So we used to go to Sigrid Shepherd's Herb Garden and take a little hike. And then we'd go to Kokanee Park and walk around. We'd go to the Crescent Valley Wildlife Center, and then we would go to Idaho Lookout and walk up to the lookout. We also had annual gatherings. There were 3 of these actually. One was the group birthday party. And once a year, we'd all get together and exchange gifts. And these were our birthday celebrations. And then we would once a year go to Ainsworth Hot Springs and swim around in the pool and also have lunch. And then we would have our Christmas luncheon here in Nelson. And once again, I want to say that the emphasis always was on fun. And I think everyone would agree. Now, from there, the group went on. We grew to 20 or more in number. It's been a very consistent group. It's always in there, meeting every last Monday of the month. And I can say that although I have lived too far out of town to be at every meeting, I have been kept in touch with what's been happening, and lots has been happening. And now I'd like to call on a couple of the original 5 members of the group and ask them why they belong to the group, what is their impression, and how do they feel about it. So I'd like to ask Doris first, if she'll express her feelings.
First, I want to say that the 4 people who used to have lunch together were people, all not only just members of the West Columbia Women's Association, but had also participated in the David Thompson sit-in, so that we were all activists, and we had all done something together before that. And from that, we had started to have lunch together and have the talks that Betty mentioned. What I really want to say, I'm not answering her questions. What I want to say is that I think it's been a very successful group. I want to mention that 2 of our members are no longer with us. They have died, and that's Catherine Shannon and Margaret Smith, who was a very important member of our group. Betty Drew was an honorary member. But what I want to say mostly is that although we grew and we have a lot of things in common and we discuss a lot of things, what we have is a lot of middle-class women. And what we don't have is any working-class women. And I think that that's something that somehow, I don't know how, that we should try to remedy, to see what we have in common with them.
Thank you, Doris. Marilyn, you're next.
Well, I was very happy to join the group. Okay. That should be good. I was very happy to join the group because there's nothing better than good conversation with like-minded people. And as I remember, I was always the one to push the trips to Ainsworth. And as to wisdom, I don't know. I don't really have any for younger women. It seems to me that every decade is different. You have to live differently in each decade. And so it goes on and on.
Bev, can we hear from you? And also from Fran. And are there any other members of the crew group here? Yes, you do.
I wasn't one of the original members, but I joined soon after. I think they'd been going maybe a few months, and I had actually moved away and was working on a mobile clinic that came to town twice a year. And I had a Sunday off, and it was pouring rain, and I was in a hotel, going in and out of dreams, and I dreamt that I had moved back to Nelson, and that I had joined a group of women who got together to talk about their aging. And I called Marilyn later in the day and said, I had the strangest dream. And she said, well, isn't that funny, because we've already started a group just like that. And the people who were in your dream are in that group. So I said, well, can I join? And she said, well, I don't know, we're really not open at this point. And I said, oh, I really want to join. So then I talked to Doris, and Doris asked if I would meet her for lunch or for coffee at the Outer Clove. And so I got there early and got a table for 2. And I saw all these people coming in and going to a bigger table. They were all people that I recognized, most of them. And then Doris eventually came over and said, would you like to join us? And they said, well, we had a discussion about whether you could join the group, and we decided even though you're not old enough, you're mature enough. So I'm happy to say that I've been there for most of the years that group has been together, and I call it my women's group. And I just think that every woman should be part of a women's group who talk about the issues that are relevant to them and to women in general. And that's what I get there, and it is a lot of fun. Thanks.
So how would you have to be?
I should say on the numbers thing that we went round and round and round periodically about whether we really wanted a large group, and then we'd have to split into 2, or whether we'd stay. Well, we stayed, and it worked. Fran, you want to say a few words to us, please?
Hi there. I heard about the group from Claire Dakin. I had met her because my husband was ill and she was with hospice. And she said, Fran, there is this very interesting group, and I think you would really enjoy it. And she told me a bit about it, and I said, oh yeah, this is for me. So I think I joined towards the end of 1996. And it was really a blessing for me, because I was, by 1997, I was a widow. Lots of changes in my life. I really enjoyed the women in the group. As Marilyn said, there's nothing like good conversation, and it was very, very stimulating. My brain would be kind of buzzing afterward, you know, in the afterglow. I always enjoyed it so much. And of course, one of my roles was to be sort of a court jester. I'd make outrageous remarks. Very hard for a prim and quiet person to do. Anyway, that's all I got to say. I have no wisdom for the ones coming after me. No.
That's a typical comment from Fran. So, now, Jane.
Well, I wasn't one of the originals, but I think it's a great group. And I didn't live in Nelson. I always planned to be here when we met. And talking of conversation, it's a huge challenge to get these ladies to stop talking all at once. But it's a great group.
And now on behalf of all of the members of the crew group, I'd like to thank Kathleen and all the people who have celebrated or allowed us to celebrate the 36 years of WICWA. That's very, very important in this community, believe me. And as far as the seniors are concerned, I think we are comfortable now in the Women's Center, which is very good. And I also want to thank you for honoring the older people who have been part of this organization for years and years. And I wish you all well, and I can assure you the crew group will carry on another 36 years.
read off the names of everyone who is a part of the coup group or has been. Okay. I have Betty Daniel, Claire Dakin, Esther Popkin-Clurban, Bertha Archner, Gloria Curry, Jane Steed, Lena Wertz, Margaret Mooney, Hannah Haddikin, Doris Kaplan, Marilyn Kolstad, Bev Mill, Elaine Dupuy, Fran Smealy, Isabel Torso, Jenny Craig, Marg Wood, Phyllis Dale, Marg Smith, who is deceased, Kathleen Shannon, who is deceased. And we have a rose and a certificate and a picture for you. But mainly, we have gratitude and honoring and appreciation for everything you've done. And you make great role models. Thank you. We have one more comment here.
One last comment I'd like to make about the coup group that suddenly came forward in the head. When we got together, we had to decide if we were going to be a hierarchical kind of organization, where we're going to have rules and regulations, and where we're going to have officers and so forth. And we decided we want none of that. So we have one rule, well, two rules. You have to be 50 or over, and two, you have to be a member of WICWA. Other than that, we are absolutely equal in everything that we do in terms of membership, and everybody plays their role in how the organization is going to go. And that's a very important thing, believe me.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it for the company of older women. And now the last group that we're going to be honoring tonight officially is the Raging Grannies. Now the Raging Grannies, I believe, started in 2001. And it started, I think, in 1987 in Victoria with a group of wild and woolly women who were like active already as peace activists and decided they were going to take on some of the other issues and speak out against nuclear proliferation. And they just went on and on and on and have gotten themselves in a lot of trouble and spoken very clearly. And we have our very own Nelson and West Kootenai branch of the Raging Grannies. So let's give them a hand and let's have Fran come. While she's coming, let me just read the names I have here. Doris Kaplan, Fran Smealy, Bonnie Baker, Bev Mill, past, Vera Fossey in the past, Gloria Curry, Della McLeod, Marg Wood, Mitzi Hufty in the past, Hannah Haddikin, past, and Margaret Smith, deceased.
I have to get in the mood.
Yeah, it'd be really good if you guys could do that. Yep.
Now, we started in Nelson. The Nelson Raging Grannies started because we were in a great state of rage about the change in government. This is when in 2000, Gordon Campbell was elected. And right away, within 3 months, the cuts had started to health care, to everything. So we were in the Women's Center, the Company of Older Women. And Doris Kaplan brought up the fact that we should start our Raging Grannies. And we were totally right for about the suggestion. We responded, and Gloria Curry wrote a song and phoned us all up. I think we picked up copies or wrote down on the phone what Gloria had written, because there was a meeting at the hospital, about the hospital and about the cuts in our services at the Civic Center. We met on a Monday and I think on a Friday, and this was in January 2001. So the original group, there was me, there was Bev Mill, Doris Kaplan, Hannah Haddigan, Marg Smith, Marg Woods, and Mitzi. So we were the original group, and what we did was we went to the meeting, and we did not have our funny hats in evidence. They were in large bags, and just before question period, we flipped on our hats and our shawls, and Hannah ran up and got a spot for question period. And I think we were second in line. So this very grim gentleman said to me, the master of ceremonies, said to Hannah, looked down at us, and do you have a question? And Hannah says, no, we have something to say. And so this is the song. And I thought it was very apropos, because it was actually a rap song with a little bit of melody at the beginning and the end, and of course it was to the tune of The Camels Are Coming. And so the grannies are coming, hurrah, hurrah, the grannies are coming, hurrah, hurrah. We're here, you see. As we all know, nothing is free. And then of course we did this rap. As I go gasping through the door, to find I see you is no more. And at my side, the pregnant one finds babies here are no longer done. And Harvey's leg hangs by a thread. It's gone for sure. Oh, such dread. Across the country, through the snow, in search of health care, we must go. And again, the camels are coming. The grannies are coming, hurrah, hurrah. It was just fabulous. And you know what? There were 700 people there, and they gave us such a big hand. We were just totally amazed. But we were able to practice it, I guess, just enough that we, see, the whole thing is about the Raging Grannies, that is none of us were singers. And so we had to work around that. Around that, and so we just tried to sing together and sing clearly, that we weren't out of sync, so that people could hear what we were saying. So we were very busy. We were your all-purpose activists, I guess. We sang against war. We sang against Bush. We sang a lot of songs about healthcare. We went to Salmo. They wanted us there to be part of the program. They had big cuts to health care and home care. And we went to Salmo especially to help them out with that. We also sang about health care here. We went to an awful lot of gatherings where we would either start or be somewhere in the middle or at the end. I think it was just for a bit of comic relief. And so we did our best, and sometimes we were terrible, and sometimes we were okay. And I wanted to give you a few samples here. I love this one. It was we have two songs. We have two songs about bombing Iraq, and this is the first one. And what I should say about the whole thing about songs, Marg Smith. Before she died, was one of our main songwriters. She would take something, we would use the tune of an old popular song or a folk song or whatever, and then she would write a song for us. And and a lot about healthcare. To this, within the last couple of years, we've probably sung one of her songs. But anyway, Marg Smith was just a great songwriter, and we miss her still. And another person who really brought new songs to us is Bev Mill. Bev always, she would get songs for us off the internet. She would find them, people would give her songs, and Bev has always been a great benefit to us. She tried to get us to do things like blow on, what was that thing called? The kazoo. Well, we're just so uncoordinated. We seem to be the kind of people who can't chew gum and walk down the street at the same time. You've heard of that? Well, really. So we could just never coordinate. It was really something. It was really something to get us to pop our balloons all together when we sang a song about nuclear war. We, to get us to pop our balloons. But anyway, so I'm going to sing you one of those first songs about Iraq. Just give you a little sample. If they cannot find Osama, bomb Iraq. If the markets hurt your mama, bomb Iraq. If the terrorists are Saudi and the bank takes back your Audi and the TV shows are rowdy, bomb Iraq. And it was just really a lot of fun. God, we just loved it. And we loved the fact that people responded to us and would get the giggles. Like I remember, and we used to sing, we've sung at several feminist minutes, 5 feminist minutes. God, some of them were fun. One of our members dyed some old brassieres, orange and red and green, and we sang a feminist song, 2 or 3 of them, and then we ripped out these bras from our bosoms and flung them out into the crowd. Just for a bit of fun, But the main, and we've had such a great time singing about politicians, and really, really going for the jugular. Like we had this great one about Blair Sufferdine. I won't sing that song except for the first one. Where's Blair? And it was, Sufferdine, Blair Sufferdine, this is the worst we've ever seen. Watched her town go down the drain. I've forgotten the rest. But anyway, we really pilloried him. Oh boy. And lots of them about Canada.
It worked, It worked.
Oh, well, who knows. We sang in front of Blair Sufferdine's office. We sang on Baker Street. We took part in marches. As I say, we were your all-purpose. We sang this song about Iraq, I believe, down at the in front of City Hall. At the post office, because we wanted to send parcels to Iraq, and of course they were returned to us. They would not. We wanted to send care packages, like in shoe boxes, soap and vitamins and stuff like that. No, it wasn't allowed. So we sang it. We sang about that too. Oh yeah, we had such a good time. And talking about 5 feminist minutes, I wonder if I can find this. We just sang that last, the last 5 feminist minutes. Oh yeah. Take your hands off my ovaries, leave my uterus alone. You have no right to say yay or nay. It's my body and I have final say, so if I choose birth or abortion, I'll decide in my way. Yes, I'm 1, 2, 3 saying, hey, you just have no say. Oh, and then we sang this one again, an anti-war song. After the war is over, after the ball is over. After the war is over, after the fighting's done, life will be life will be kind of boring. War was a lot of fun. Didn't you love those patriots? Weren't the TV folks grand? Anyway, I've lost my way. And the last words were, flags will be draping the coffin, stand up and give them a hand. Oh God. Yeah, we sang a lot of stuff. Oh yeah, and this is an old favorite one. Of course, you have to keep on getting new songs, but I loved that Bev found this one for us. Bev Mill. If you're mad at Stephen, clap your hands. If you're mad at Stephen Harper, clap your hands. If you're thinking that the right wants to prove that we can fight, and you're mad at Stephen Harper, clap your hands. If you think that war's no answer, stamp your feet. If you think that war's no answer, stamp your feet. As the elders on the hill send the youngsters out to kill, if you think that war's no answer, stamp your feet. If you think Karzai's a crook, then hold your nose.